Imagine a millionaire surrounded by wealth, greed, and suspicion, leaving his safe wide open, not for an accident, but to test someone's honesty. Now, picture the reaction that turned his world upside down, bringing him to tears. Today, I'll share a story that will make you question your assumptions about people, wealth, and true integrity. In the heart of a luxurious mansion, filled with priceless artifacts, gleaming furniture, and the soft hum of air conditioning, the millionaire sat alone in his study, staring at the safe that held not just his money, but his peace of mind. Wealth, he had realized over the years, came with a hidden cost, a constant undercurrent of suspicion. Every employee, every visitor, even the people he called friends, seemed to be measured not by their character, but by what they could take from him. In his eyes, trust had become a dangerous luxury. Despite having everything the world could offer, he felt a gnawing insecurity that no amount of money could soothe. He watched his staff with cautious eyes, wondering if a smile was genuine or masking hidden intentions. Among them, the maid, simple, quiet, and seemingly devoted, had always been trustworthy, or so he believed, but paranoia, once it takes root, is rarely satisfied. He wanted to test her to see if her loyalty could withstand temptation. That night, he left the safe deliberately open, the door slightly ajar, revealing stacks of cash and glittering valuables. It was a small, calculated trap, designed to reveal her true nature. Every rational part of him knew it was cruel, yet he justified it as necessary. If she steals, at least I'll know, he whispered to himself, but beneath that justification was a harsher truth. His own loneliness had twisted into doubt. Wealth had not just filled his pockets, it had built walls around his heart. As he waited in the shadows, every creak of the floorboards, every shuffle of feet, felt like an accusation. The mansion, usually a sanctuary, now felt like a cage, and the weight of his money seemed heavier than ever. In that moment, surrounded by gold yet void of trust, he realized that the richest life could also be the loneliest. The millionaire sat silently in his study, his heart beating faster than the grandfather clock ticking beside him. The safe lay open in the next room, a silent invitation that could reveal everything he feared, or hoped. For he had engineered this moment with precision, just enough temptation to test his maid, but subtle enough to appear as an innocent oversight. The money, the jewels, the contracts, everything valuable, lay exposed, gleaming under the soft light. Every detail mattered. As footsteps approached, his pulse quickened. The soft patter of the maid's shoes against the polished floor echoed in the quiet mansion. He imagined all the possibilities. What if she was human, weak to greed like so many others? Could she resist the allure of wealth she had never known? In his mind, he played out every scenario, her taking just a few bills, pocketing a jewel, or even calling her friends to help herself to a treasure trove. The anticipation twisted into a bitter tension, gnawing at his own conscience even as he waited to judge her. The millionaire knew the test was cruel. He knew that manipulating someone's honesty for his own reassurance was morally gray. But fear, he reminded himself, had driven him here. Fear of betrayal, fear of loss, fear of the emptiness that even money could not fill. Every second stretched like an eternity. He watched the door, barely breathing, as the maid approached the safe. Her hands paused, hovering over the money, her eyes scanning the room. In that moment, time seemed suspended. The mansion felt heavier, the walls closer, as if holding its breath alongside him. This was more than a test of wealth. It was a test of character, a silent reckoning between suspicion and integrity, between temptation and virtue. The maid stood before the open safe, her eyes widening at the sight of the money and jewels stacked carelessly inside. A moment of disbelief froze her in place. She had worked in the mansion for years, scrubbing floors, polishing silver, and tending to the millionaire's every need, never once imagining that she would be tested in such a cruel, deliberate way. The temptation was undeniable. Any ordinary person might have taken a single bill or a trinket, telling themselves it was harmless. Yet something far stronger than temptation guided her actions: integrity. She took a deep breath and let her gaze sweep over the room, aware that unseen eyes were watching her every move. Her hands hovered near the safe, trembling slightly, not with desire, but with the weight of responsibility. She understood what was at stake. If she succumbed, she could gain riches beyond her imagination, but she would lose something far more valuable: her honor. Without a word, she carefully closed the safe door, ensuring it was securely locked. Then, with quiet dignity, she turned and confronted the millionaire, not with accusation or anger, but with honesty. She asked gently why the safe had been left open. Her calm, unwavering composure struck him like a lightning bolt. In her eyes, he saw no greed, no deceit, only trustworthiness, courage, and a moral compass that pointed true north, no matter how extreme the temptation. In that instant, the millionaire realized something profound. He had underestimated her. She had proven that true character cannot be measured by wealth or social status. Her choice was simple, yet monumental, an act of honesty so powerful that it pierced the millionaire's hardened heart, making him confront the emptiness that money alone could never fill. The millionaire stood frozen, watching the maid close the safe with steady hands, her composure unshaken despite the obvious temptation she had faced. A wave of emotion he hadn't anticipated washed over him, first disbelief, then astonishment, and finally, a profound sense of shame. All his life, he had believed that money was the ultimate measure of value, that wealth could define people and control outcomes. Yet here, in this quiet, unassuming act of integrity, he was confronted with a truth far more powerful than any fortune he had accumulated. Character cannot be bought, bribed, or manipulated. For a moment, the room seemed to shrink around him, the chandeliers and gold-plated fixtures fading into insignificance. He had created a trap, expecting deceit, and instead, he witnessed honesty in its purest form. It was a moment of reckoning, one that peeled away the layers of arrogance and suspicion he had built over decades. Every lavish possession, every investment, every bank account balance suddenly seemed hollow compared to the weight of the choice she had made. Tears welled in his eyes, unbidden and unstoppable. He realized that his wealth had blinded him, isolating him from the very human truths he had long ignored. The maid, a figure of humility and simplicity in his eyes, had demonstrated a richness far greater than his own, the richness of moral courage, of doing the right thing even when no one is watching, even when the stakes are enormous. In that quiet, electrifying moment, he understood that true wealth was not measured in dollars or gold, but in the integrity and trustworthiness of the people around him. He had been chasing illusions, fearing betrayal where none existed, and in doing so, he had almost overlooked the greatest treasure he had ever encountered, not the money in his safe, but the soul of someone he had underestimated. As the millionaire stood there, overwhelmed by tears and realization, a deeper understanding began to take root in his mind. Wealth alone is meaningless without values to guide it. He had spent decades accumulating money, possessions, and status, believing that these would bring him happiness and security. Yet in that very moment it became painfully clear that no vault, no bank account, and no mansion could compare to the richness found in honesty, loyalty, and moral courage. These were the treasures that truly endure, the currency of human character that cannot be stolen, lost, or depreciated. The maid's actions, simple yet profound, revealed a truth that often goes unnoticed in the pursuit of material success. Integrity is priceless. She had faced a temptation that could have changed her life forever, yet she chose the path that honored her conscience rather than her opportunity. In doing so, she reminded the millionaire, and all of us, that the measure of a person is not how they handle wealth when it is scarce, but how they act when the temptation of sudden gain presents itself. This realization forces a broader reflection. How often do we equate wealth with worth? How many times have we judged others by what they own rather than who they are? True richness lies in values, trust, honesty, empathy, and courage. These are qualities that shape relationships, build reputations, and leave lasting legacies. Money may open doors, but values build lives. The story of the millionaire and his maid serves as a powerful mirror, asking us to consider our own lives. In a world obsessed with possessions, are we cultivating wealth that lasts beyond numbers and material gain, or are we missing the true treasures that define our humanity? As the events in the mansion settled into memory, the millionaire felt a transformation he had never anticipated. What had begun as a simple test of honesty had evolved into a profound lesson about human nature, trust, and perspective. He realized that life often teaches us in ways we least expect, and that our assumptions, especially those shaped by fear, greed, or past disappointments, can blind us to the true value of people around us. The maid, with her quiet dignity and unwavering integrity, had changed not only the course of that night, but the way he viewed the world. This story is more than just a moral fable. It is a mirror reflecting the choices we make every day. We live in a society that measures success in dollars, likes, and material possessions, yet the most powerful lessons often come from simple acts of character. The maid's honesty was a ripple that reached the millionaire's heart, reminding him, and all of us, that perspective matters. How we perceive others, how we trust, and how we act in moments of temptation or judgment defines the life we lead far more than the numbers in our bank accounts. Her courage invites us to reconsider our own behavior. How often do we give people the benefit of the doubt, only to let suspicion or pride cloud our judgment? How often do we overlook integrity, kindness, or loyalty in favor of superficial measures of worth? In a world hungry for instant gratification, her reaction is a call to pause, reflect, and elevate the human qualities that endure beyond wealth or fame. Ultimately, the story challenges us to embrace a broader perspective, to value trust over possessions, character over status, and honesty over convenience. It asks us to recognize that the richest experiences and most profound lessons often come from moments of moral clarity, and that these moments have the power to transform not only those who witness them, but the hearts of all involved. In the end, the millionaire learned what no wealth could ever teach him, that human integrity, trust, and honesty are far more valuable than any treasure locked behind a safe. The maid didn't just resist temptation, she revealed a truth that shook him to his core. The richest people are not those who have the most money, but those who live with honor and moral courage. As he looked at her, tears in his eyes, he understood that life's greatest rewards are not counted in dollars or possessions, but in the character of the people we encounter and the choices we make. That single act of honesty transformed a moment of suspicion into a lesson of humility, gratitude, and awakening. And perhaps that is the message we all need to hear today. In a world obsessed with wealth and status, it is integrity that will truly leave a lasting mark. Trust generously, act with honor, and never underestimate the quiet power of doing what is right, even when no one is watching, because in those moments we discover the real treasures of life.